The silence in the Galactic Council chambers was deafening. Admiral Vextar of the Hegemony fleet stood before the assembled representatives of 17 species, his 4 arms spread wide in what his kind considered a gesture of absolute authority. The crystalline dome above them reflected the light of distant stars, each one representing a world under the Council's dominion. His voice echoed through the vast chamber as he delivered what he believed would be the final word on humanity's fate.
"The motion is clear," Vextar announced,
his translator rendering his words into dozens of languages simultaneously. The mechanical precision of the device couldn't mask the satisfaction in his tone.
"The species calling itself humanity has violated the Galactic Non-Interference Directive by establishing unauthorized colonies in the Kepler sector. The penalty is immediate evacuation and permanent exile to their home system."
The Hegemony Admiral's mandible clicked with pleasure as he surveyed the assembled delegates. The Zephyrians, with their gossamer wings, rustled nervously. The crystalline Vorphan representatives chimed in harmonic agreement. Even the massive Gorlak delegation, each member standing 3 meters tall, nodded their approval with thunderous footsteps that shook the chamber floor. The vote was swift and unanimous. 17 species, 17 votes in favor. The humans had no representation here. They were too young, too primitive, too insignificant to warrant a seat among the galaxy's established powers. After all, they had only achieved faster-than-light travel a mere 50 years ago, while some of the council members had been exploring the stars for millennia. What the council didn't know was that Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Colonial Defense Force was listening to every word from her stealth frigate, the Defiant, positioned just outside the station's sensor range. Her ship was small by galactic standards, barely 100 meters long, but it was equipped with experimental human technology that the galaxy had never seen before. Quantum phase cloaking, adaptive hull plating, and most importantly, a new type of AI that could learn and evolve in real time. As the Council's decision reached her ears through the ship's advanced listening arrays, Chen's jaw tightened with determination. She had been expecting this outcome, but hearing it spoken aloud still sent a surge of anger through her veins. Behind her, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Torres, her tactical officer, shook his head in disgust. "Captain," Torres said quietly, "they're making the same mistake every empire in human history has made. They think size equals strength." Chen nodded, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface before her. "Record everything, Marcus. Every word, every vote, every smug expression on their alien faces. When this is over, I want the galaxy to remember exactly how this started." If you're enjoying this tale of humanity's first real test among the stars, hit that subscribe button and give us a like. It helps us bring you more stories of human ingenuity against impossible odds. The Hegemony's enforcement fleet arrived at New Geneva 3 days later, emerging from hyperspace in a display of overwhelming force that had crushed the spirits of countless civilizations before. 50 massive dreadnoughts, each one the size of a small city, their hulls gleaming with energy shields that could withstand the firepower of entire planetary defense grids. The ships moved in perfect formation, a testament to the Hegemony's military precision and technological superiority. Admiral Vextar himself commanded from the flagship Dominion, a vessel so large it cast shadows across New Geneva's 3 moons. The ship was a marvel of hegemony engineering, bristling with weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been breached in over 2 centuries of warfare. Its crew of 10,000 represented the finest military minds the Hegemony had to offer.
"Attention human settlement,"
Vextar's voice boomed across all frequencies, transmitted through speakers that could be heard across the entire system. You have 72 hours to evacuate this system. Any vessels remaining after that time will be destroyed without further warning. This is your only opportunity to comply with the will of the Galactic Council. The transmission was accompanied by a demonstration of power. The Dominion's main cannon, a weapon capable of vaporizing asteroids, fired a warning shot that obliterated a small moon in the outer system. The message was clear. Resistance was futile. On the surface of New Geneva, Governor Marcus Webb watched the alien fleet through his office window, the massive ships hanging in space like dark omens against the star field. Webb was a veteran of the Martian colonial wars, a conflict that had taught humanity valuable lessons about asymmetric warfare and the importance of thinking outside conventional military doctrine. His tactical mind was already working, analysing the hegemony formation and identifying potential weaknesses. 50 ships against their modest defence grid. By any conventional measure, it should have been hopeless. New Geneva's orbital platforms could barely scratch the paint on a hegemony frigate, let alone damage a dreadnought. The colony's population of 2 million civilians had no military training, no warships, and no apparent means of resistance. But Webb smiled. A cold expression that would have chilled any human who knew him well enough to recognize it. The humans had been preparing for this moment since their first contact with galactic civilization 5 years ago. They'd learned quickly that the galaxy operated on a simple principle: might makes right. The strong dictated terms to the weak, and humanity was considered very weak indeed. What the galaxy didn't understand was that humans had been perfecting the art of asymmetric warfare millennia, long before they ever dreamed of reaching the stars. Admiral Chen? Webb spoke into his secure communicator, using an encrypted channel that no alien technology could intercept. Operation Underdog is authorized. Show them what happens when you corner a species that's been fighting for survival since we crawled out of caves. Chen's voice crackled back through the quantum entanglement communicator, clear despite the vast distance between them. Copy that, Governor. All units are standing by. Time to remind the galaxy why Earth is called a death world. The first sign that something was wrong came 18 hours into the 72-hour ultimatum. The Hegemony's long-range sensors, sophisticated arrays that could detect a single ship at the edge of a solar system, began registering energy signatures appearing throughout the Kepler system. Dozens of them, then hundreds. Small craft were emerging from asteroid fields, where they had been hiding in powered-down mode. From behind moons where they had been using gravitational shadows to mask their presence. From the shadows of gas giant rings where their heat signatures had been lost in the cosmic background radiation. Each signature was tiny compared to the massive dreadnoughts, but there were so many of them. The Hegemony's tactical computers, designed to track and engage conventional fleets, struggled to process the sheer number of contacts appearing on their screens. "Sir," reported the Hegemony's sensor officer, his voice uncertain as he stared at readings that defied his understanding of human capabilities. "I'm reading approximately 800 small craft converging on our position. They appear to be civilian vessels?" Vextar's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species, a sound like breaking glass that echoed through the Dominion's bridge. Civilian ships. Are these humans planning to ram us with cargo haulers and pleasure craft? How pathetically desperate. The Admiral's confidence was shared by his crew. The idea that civilian vessels could pose any threat to military dreadnoughts was absurd by every measure of galactic warfare. It would be like attacking a fortress with farming tools. But as the human fleet drew closer, the Hegemony's tactical computers began registering readings that didn't make sense. These weren't ordinary civilian ships. Each vessel had been modified, retrofitted, weaponized in ways that violated every principle of efficient ship design the Hegemony understood. Mining ships carried military-grade railguns that should have torn their hulls apart with recoil. Cargo haulers bristled with missile pods that had been welded to their superstructures. Even luxury yachts had been converted into fast attack craft, their elegant lines now broken by weapon mounts and armor plating. The humans had turned their entire civilian fleet into a guerrilla navy, transforming every ship in the system into a potential weapon of war. It was insane, inefficient, and completely unprecedented in galactic military history. "This is Admiral Chen aboard the Defiant," came a transmission from the human fleet, broadcast on all frequencies with typical human disregard for military protocol. "Admiral Vextar, you wanted to see what humanity is capable of. Allow me to demonstrate." What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come, analysed and reanalysed by strategists, trying to understand how a technologically inferior force had achieved such a decisive victory. The human fleet didn't attack in formation like civilized species, following the established rules of engagement that had governed galactic warfare for millennia. They swarmed. 800 ships moving in seemingly random patterns, each one following a different vector, making targeting solutions nearly impossible for the Hegemony's massive weapons. The Dreadnoughts' main guns, designed to engage other capital ships in stately, predictable battles, couldn't track the erratic movements of the human swarm. It was like trying to swat flies with a sledgehammer. The humans used every dirty trick in the book, and several that weren't in any book at all. They employed the Hegemony's own size against them, darting between the massive vessels, using them as cover, turning the alien formation into a maze of friendly fire hazards. When Hegemony ships tried to engage the human craft, they found their shots blocked by their own allies. The Dreadnoughts opened fire, their planet-killer beams lancing out across space in brilliant displays of destructive power. But the human ships were small, fast, and utterly unpredictable. They moved like living things, responding to threats with an organic fluidity that no military computer could calculate. Some ships would suddenly accelerate at crushing G-forces that should have killed their crews, while others would perform impossible maneuvers that defied the laws of physics as the Hegemony understood them. Then, the humans revealed their true innovation, the weapon that would change the nature of space warfare forever. Each small ship carried what they called smart mines, tiny, self-guided explosives that could think, adapt, and coordinate with each other using a distributed AI network. Thousands of these devices swarmed toward the Hegemony fleet like angry insects. Too small for point defense systems to target effectively, too numerous to stop with conventional countermeasures. Drop it in the comments below. We'd love to know what tactical stories inspire you. The smart mines didn't just explode randomly. They analysed their targets, identified weak points, and coordinated their attacks for maximum effect. Some mines would sacrifice themselves to overload shield generators, creating gaps for others to exploit. Others would target specific systems, engines, weapons, life support, with surgical precision. The Hegemony's mighty shields, designed to withstand the focused fire of enemy dreadnoughts, were overwhelmed by thousands of pinprick attacks that came from every direction at once. The first dreadnought fell within minutes, its shields overwhelmed by hundreds of simultaneous impacts. The massive ship, pride of the Hegemony fleet, began to list as secondary explosions rippled across its hull.
Emergency klaxons wailed as the crew struggled to contain the damage, but it was too late. The ship's fusion reactors went critical, and the dreadnought vanished in a brief, brilliant star. Then another fell, and another. The Hegemony's formation began to collapse as captains tried to maneuver their massive ships away from the human swarm, only to find themselves surrounded on all sides. The humans had anticipated every move, every tactical doctrine, every standard response in the Hegemony playbook. "Impossible!" Vextar roared as his flagship shuddered under impact. The smart minds finding weak points in the Dominion's armor that the ship's designers had never imagined could be exploited. How can primitives with inferior technology defeat a Hegemony fleet? Admiral Chen's voice came through the chaos, calm and steady despite the battle raging around her ship. Because you made the same mistake everyone makes when they encounter humanity. Admiral, you assumed that bigger meant better. You thought superior technology guaranteed victory. You forgot that we've spent our entire evolutionary history as the underdogs. The Dominion's shields failed as a coordinated strike from 50 human ships overwhelmed its defenses. Emergency klaxons wailed throughout the massive vessel as secondary explosions rippled across its hull. The ship that had never been damaged in 2 centuries of warfare was being torn apart by converted civilian craft. "You see, Admiral," Chen continued, her voice carrying across the comm channels as her ship danced between the dying giants of the Hegemony fleet. "We humans have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. You brought 50 ships to intimidate us. We brought 800 ships to teach you a lesson." The battle raged for 6 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt once the humans revealed their true capabilities. The Hegemony's technological superiority meant nothing when faced with human adaptability and ingenuity. Their massive ships, symbols of imperial power, became liabilities in the face of humanity's swarm tactics. Within 6 hours, the Hegemony's enforcement fleet was in full retreat. Half their dreadnoughts were destroyed or disabled, drifting hulks that would serve as monuments to the folly of underestimating humanity. The survivors were limping back toward Hegemony space with their shields down and their pride shattered, carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. But the real shock came 3 days later, when Admiral Chen's small frigate appeared in orbit above the Galactic Council station. The same stealth technology that had allowed her to observe the original vote now let her park directly outside their chambers, undetected until she chose to reveal herself. The Defiant materialized like a ghost, its quantum phase cloak dropping to reveal the ship that had coordinated the destruction of an entire Hegemony fleet. "Honorable Council members," Chen's voice echoed through the same chambers where humanity's fate had been decided just days before. "I believe you have something that belongs to us, our right to exist in this galaxy without interference." The council members sat in stunned silence, their earlier confidence evaporated like morning mist. The Hegemony's defeat had already reached them, along with detailed tactical analyses that made it clear this wasn't a fluke, or a lucky victory. Humanity had outthought, outmaneuvered, and outfought one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces using nothing but ingenuity, determination, and the kind of creative thinking that only came from a species that had clawed its way to the top of a deaf world's food chain. The Zetherian's wings trembled with fear. The Vorthan representatives' crystalline forms dimmed with uncertainty. Even the massive Gorlak delegation seemed smaller somehow, their imposing presence diminished by the knowledge that size and strength meant nothing against human cunning. "The human colonies in the Kepler sector will remain," Chen announced, her words carrying the weight of absolute authority.
and humanity formally requests a seat on this council. We've proven we belong here, not through conquest or intimidation, but by defending our right to exist. There was no debate this time, no lengthy discussion of precedent or protocol. The vote was swift and unanimous. 17 species, 17 votes in favour. The same delegates who had voted to exile humanity now welcomed them with open arms, their fear disguised as diplomatic courtesy. As Chen's ship departed the station, the galaxy began to understand a fundamental truth about humanity that would reshape interstellar politics for centuries to come. They weren't just another species to be catalogued and controlled. They were survivors, innovators, and warriors who had earned their place among the stars not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through the one thing that had always defined them: the refusal to give up when the odds were impossible. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Other species would learn to respect the small, seemingly insignificant ships that bore the flag of Earth. They would remember the lesson of New Geneva, that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their numbers, but their ability to find a way to win when winning seemed impossible. In the years that followed, the Battle of New Geneva would become legend. Military academies across the galaxy would study the tactics Chen employed, trying to understand how a handful of converted civilian ships had defeated a fleet that should have been invincible. The smart mine technology would revolutionize space warfare, forcing every major power to rethink their approach to fleet design and combat doctrine. But perhaps more importantly, the galaxy learned to see humanity differently. No longer were they the young, primitive species that could be pushed around at will. They were the Deathworlders, the Space Orcs, the species that turned every challenge into an opportunity and every setback into a comeback story. If this story of human determination and tactical brilliance resonated with you, please subscribe to Apex Fleet HFY for more tales of humanity's rise among the stars. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments what you think makes humanity truly special in the cosmos. Until next time, remember, we may not be the strongest or the most advanced, but we're definitely the most stubborn species in the galaxy.